Welcome to the Near Memo, a weekly conversation about search, social, and commerce. What happened, why it matters, and the implications for local.
Okay, so let's talk about Mike's topic, which is the voice UI and voice search. So, Mike, why don't you tell us what you're thinking about this?
So, I have used Siri for 13 years pretty regularly, mostly as a test to understand what its failings are and what its strengths were. And I realized, and then I watched the AI, the ex-Googler who had an interview with Daring Fireball, John Gruber, where he said, well, I don't remember Google's guy's name, but he said that, historically the problem has been brittleness. In other words, you would express it in the English language, but there were not enough ways to map that to the command so it would fail. And the other was natural language processing, the ability to, when Siri acts really stupid. When I say I want Jim's strawberry stand and it plays Strawberry Fields Forever, that's because there's noise in my background. The microwave is running in the kitchen, or I'm in my car and the tires are running, and it makes dumb mistakes. Now, both of those appear to be likely solved in iOS 18. And Google's clearly solving it with their switch to an AI assistant. Alexa, obviously the Echo is on hard times, but Alexa is working in the same direction. And the question I have is, if audio search works correctly 98% of the time, or whatever it is perceived as adequate for a human to say this is a fun interaction, I wonder where, when, and how much impact it will have. Because when I look at my current use, I say, oh, it's in the car, private. I'm fine with that. I look at my use at home. I'm in the kitchen, adding something to the shopping list. I'm in the living room, turning the TV on. These are both limited domains of knowledge. The number of vegetables in the world is limited. The number of TV shows is limited. The driving directions is limited. These are constrained domains, and they're places that are private. So I use them more regularly there. What I wonder, and what I guess I'm trying to wrap my head around, is whether users will be comfortable using them in the workplace, using them on a crowded subway. I know people talk on their phones, but this seems a little different. I think the social constraints are different. I think you would be perceived as weird currently if you're talking to your phone AI. And so I'm curious, assuming they solve all these problems they've had, and then the other question is, besides utilization, how long is it going to take people to sort of, this has been a Maps moment for 10 years, right? Will people forgive the behaviors of these devices and try them again once they get good? So two questions that I'm thinking about lately, and I just put them to Cindy because I respect your opinion.
Whereas you don't respect mine.
Well, you're not a guest here. I get to talk to every day.
All right. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead, Cindy. Sorry.
I've been bullish on voice for a long time, but I think that we need to think of it as it can be search without being the exact same thing as search that we've done historically, right? There's a whole lot of things that Google is searching when you have a voice query. And we think of, a command to turn on or off the light as not a search, but for Google it is, right? Because when I say, okay, device, turn on the patio lights, it has to know who I am, where are the patio lights, can it turn them on? Do I have two houses? Is it at this address or that address?
Right.
And it's got to turn on the right patio lights in the entire world. And that's a search. And SEOs don't think of that as a search because you can't optimize for it per se. But in Google's mind, it's still a search. And so I think there's just a nuance to the meaning of search, where it's a search from a massive amount of many of the things that SEOs don't think of it as search, but that Google thinks of as search, or voice commands or voice interaction or assistant behavior. It's all search. Because it's a vast world that they have to serve and get that right. And then I think that it will still evolve. We're just, we had a big bridge of technology to cross, and we're still doing that. And then once that's done, once they actually make it less reliably, less fragile, then they have to fine tune it of, is it working the way users want and expect and stuff like that. I think they're doing a good job, Google is especially, of adding in follow-up questions. And it's part of what I was talking about with people also ask, with the refinement of a query. If you ask a factual question to an assistant, especially Google, you say, how long can blue cheese last in the fridge? And it says, 3 weeks. And then
it's already moldy. How much moldier can it get?
Right, it's probably still good. But then Google will come back and say, other people have asked, other people have asked, how long can unopened blue cheese last in the fridge? And you're like, oh, that might matter. Yes, I want to know that. And it's a refinement. And it's sending you down a path. And I think Google's ultimate hope is to find out, like, would you like us to order you some more blue cheese? And you say yes, right? But they're not there yet. But I think that everything that we're seeing with language understanding, what we're seeing with the AI overviews, is Google's obvious intent that they want to nail voice. And because the Internet of Things is going to be not just your phone and not just your car or your assistant, it's going to be all the devices that run on electricity could be on the internet, because why not?
Yes, I mean, I think that you guys have probably, Mike, you have, I know for sure, and Cindy, you probably have interacted with the ChatGPT app, the conversational app, right? So if you interact with that, you can carry on a sustained conversation without the hot words. You don't have to say, "Okay, ChatGPT, now let me initiate a new query." You can just talk to it, and it'll respond to you, and that experience is so far beyond, at least in my opinion, Siri, Google Assistant as it currently stands, whatever else you want to point to, which are just kind of queries in isolation without a lot of follow-up, notwithstanding what you're saying, right? And you can't just talk to them. You have to use the hot word. You have to sort of formulate it like a query. And to me, when I have that ChatGPT 4.0 experience, I think this is the future. This kind of conversational interaction. And to your point, Mike, I don't think it's a total replacement for screens. I think it's situational, because there are times when a screen is really important. I mean, Amazon, when Alexa sort of first came out, there was all this talk about voice commerce. And there are times when you really need to see a picture of something, and you need to be able to process information in a different way to determine whether you want to buy something or not. And so I think these are compatible user experiences, not mutually exclusive user experiences. But I think the role for voice can expand radically if it gets better. If people are rewarded for their behavior, then they will continue to use it and expand the use cases. So we'll have to see how good Siri becomes, or Google Assistant becomes, and the ChatGPT 4.0 is very verbose. It talks a lot. It gives you a lot of stuff, and you don't always want that. But it's a next level experience versus what we have today, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah, it'll be interesting. For me, it's like, are we talking 3 years for people to get over the burn? Is it 5 years? Is it based on utility? Is it based on socially accepted norms of where you can do this?
All of the above.
Right. And what does that interaction end at, right, in terms of, or where does the next step take place?
Well, the revelation for me, I took 4 years of high school French, and I've struggled since that time to sort of reinvigorate my understanding. And I was able to ask ChatGPT on my iPhone. I said, "Can you help me learn French?" It spoke to me in English, and then we could switch back and forth between French and English without clarification, right? It understood that I was trying to speak French to it. It was able to respond to me in French, and then when I said in English, "I don't understand that," or "Can you repeat that?" or whatever, it could respond to me either in English or in French. And that to me, and it was a conversation, that to me was an incredible thing versus what we've experienced in these other voice assistants.
Right.
Yeah.
know?
Well,
One other
again,
point that'll-
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, it's on you.
Oh, one other point, just to show, what I think proves that Google cares a lot about voice. The first iterations and all iterations since, I'm pretty sure, of Gemini and Google's AI assistant have had a speaker button in it. It was baked in that it was meant to be kind of a dry run for people using a screen-free interaction and chatting with voice. So ChatGPT has gotten better faster for sure, but Google's doing a lot of other things.
Oh yeah,
too.
they won't cede that ground to OpenAI. I mean, this is the whole Star Trek computer thing, right? They've been aiming for that for 20 years, and so this is the realization of that, or the beginning of the realization of that, and Google is not going to give up on that vision. Not
And
at all.
what they have that ChatGPT doesn't is all of the users' data and history.
Data. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean,
well, the other people that have this
especially
data
location
is
data,
Apple.
local data.
Apple has this data on your phone, so and Google has phones, right? So you have a device with you all the time with Apple and Google, unlike the problem you have with Echo, which is just in your home or maybe in your home in your car, right? They have ubiquitous work, home, and devices in your car every place, and so that presence of that both audio input and the screens in all those places, huge advantage to roll this stuff out if it ever works properly. It will. I mean, I don't doubt it that the next iteration will be much better. I am still somewhat skeptical I've never been a voice optimist. I never quite rose to either of your levels of enthusiasm.
As opposed to voice optimization, the voice optimist versus voice optimization. Well, so let's end here, because I mean we could talk for another 40 minutes, but we're a little bit longer than we normally run. A lot of great stuff. So Cindy, why don't you, or Mike, you're welcome to add to this, but Cindy, why don't you sort of give us some, not a summary of what we've talked about, just give us your sort of thoughts about where search marketing is today, or SEO, just in a succinct way. That's a big assignment for the last 30 seconds. But just you have some sort of sense of the world as it is. What is that right now? What should people be doing or paying attention to or thinking or preparing for?
I think Google is making a lot of quick decisions right now, and they're impactful but maybe hasty. And so what I've been telling SEOs and what I've been telling myself is to stay calm, keep doing what's worked before, because it'll probably continue to work, and then test with these other concepts and other search engines, other venues, TikTok, Google Discover, ranking in Amazon organically, stuff like that. Because Google's making weird decisions. So just buckle up and pay attention, I guess.
Mike, anything you want to add?
No, Cindy and I had the conversation in the green room where she said something to the effect of, "I'm not sure I want to be an SEO anymore." And I can empathize with that sentiment. That you end up chasing the minutia rather than seeing the big picture of helping customers do better, be better, sell more, do better customer service, all the things.
But I mean, you could argue
in the end.
You could argue it's an even more important time to be an SEO, because there's so much volatility right now, and the real world impact on businesses is huge. I mean, if local businesses, anybody. I mean, the newspaper publishers are calling on the DOJ to intervene with AI overviews and with the site reputation abuse stuff. They said, look, Google didn't talk to us about this. We curate this content. This is an important revenue source for us, and Google's just capriciously doing shit. Yeah. And so you could argue that it's a really important time for SEOs of high integrity to be out there telling people what to pay attention to and what to do, because it maps directly to revenue for these businesses.
Well, just to give a little bit of background on what Mike said, like my thought was, like, if Google has gone from being a good guy to being a bad guy, I don't want to make their life easier anymore.
Right. All right. Well, Cindy Krum, thank you so much for being on today and adding all your valuable insights and comments and genuinely thought-provoking kind of insight about engagement. We will certainly have you on again in the future. And in the meantime, safe travels. I know you're probably, where are you now? Are you in some strange time zone? Are you like in Europe somewhere right now?
No, I'm home.
Oh, okay. All right. It looks like nighttime in the background. That's for I thought you were like in Central Europe or someplace. But anyway, thank you so much for being on, and thanks everybody for listening as always, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for joining David, Mike, and Greg. To stay on top of the latest developments in local, subscribe to our newsletter at nearmedia.co. We'll see you next week.